It has been exactly 1 year since the day my husband, Eric, discovered my betrayal. A day that forever altered the trajectory of my life. Before that moment, Eric was more than just my husband. He was my confidant, my partner, and my best friend. For 8 years, we had built a life together, weathering challenges as a team. But one terrible decision shattered it all. For months, I had been unfaithful to Eric with my boss, Mark. The affair had been a reckless secret, a shadow I convinced myself would remain hidden. That morning, I thought I was safe. Eric had left early for work, and I believed I had the house to myself. Mark came over, and for a brief, selfish moment, I let my double life continue. Then the unthinkable happened. I didn't hear the door open, but suddenly, Eric was there, standing in the doorway of our bedroom. His face was ashen, his fists clenched, his entire body radiating stunned fury. The silence that followed was suffocating. When Eric finally spoke, his voice was calm, too calm. "What is this?" he asked, his tone cutting like a blade. Panic consumed me. I scrambled to cover myself, searching for words that could somehow explain the inexcusable. My mind raced, but every excuse I uttered felt hollow, even to me. Mark, who I thought might stand with me, proved his cowardice. He dressed hastily and fled, leaving me alone to face the devastation I had caused. Eric's composure was chilling. He didn't shout or lash out, but his words hit like a hammer. "You have 5 minutes to get out of my house," he said coldly. I pleaded with him to listen, to let me explain, but he simply turned and walked away. The finality in his actions broke me. In a tearful haze, I packed my belongings and left the home we had built together. By the time Eric returned, I was gone, and so was the life we had shared. The fallout was swift and merciless. Within a week, Eric had filed for divorce. The news of my betrayal spread quickly, and the consequences were far worse than I had imagined. Friends we had shared for years distanced themselves from me, many outright refusing to speak to me. My family, though less overt in their condemnation, made their disappointment clear. I became a pariah. Mark, the man for whom I had risked everything, abandoned me completely once the scandal broke. Any semblance of support vanished as he distanced himself to protect his own reputation. To add insult to injury, he fired me a month later, citing complications. My once promising career crumbled, and I went from managing high-profile accounts to waiting tables in a small diner. The humiliation was relentless. I had been a respected professional, and now I was cleaning greasy tables and serving coffee to strangers. But I had no choice. I needed to survive. Meanwhile, Eric thrived. Through mutual friends, I heard he had received a significant promotion and was dating someone new. Her name was Rachel. Intelligent, kind, and beautiful. Hearing about his newfound happiness was painful, but I couldn't begrudge him. He deserved peace and joy after what I had done. 6 months after the divorce, strange things began happening in my life. Let me know if you'd like me to continue or expand further on specific parts. The weight of consequences. My small apartment felt suffocating as I received the notice. My rent was increasing significantly. The timing was suspicious, and deep down, I knew this was more than bad luck. My once stable life had unraveled, and now even the smallest setbacks felt deliberate. Eric's revenge had begun, though at first, I was too blind to see it. I replayed the past in my mind, piecing together how everything I had built with Eric was now shattered. The calm demeanor he displayed in the wake of my betrayal had masked something far more calculated. His vengeance was already in motion, reshaping my life in ways I never anticipated. When my hours at the diner were abruptly cut due to budget issues, I chalked it up to misfortune. But as I applied for new positions, every interview ended with a polite but firm rejection. It wasn't until I overheard 2 former colleagues whispering at the diner that everything clicked. They mentioned Eric had recently purchased Mark's company. Mark's company, the very place where Eric had discovered my infidelity. I stood frozen, the world around me spinning as realization set in. Eric, always ambitious and methodical, had made a move that felt deeply personal. Acquiring Mark's company wasn't a business deal. It was a meticulously executed act of retribution. The more I investigated, the clearer it became. Eric had strategically dismantled Mark's career, reducing him to a powerless figurehead. But his wrath didn't stop there. He had purchased the building I lived in, raising the rent without warning. His connections explained the diner's sudden shift in management and my reduced hours. Every misfortune I had endured pointed back to him. Desperate for answers, I decided to confront Eric. His new home was a masterpiece of modern design, a two-story house that radiated success. When he opened the door, he looked neither angry nor surprised. "Emma," he said calmly, "what brings you here?" Taking a deep breath, I steadied myself. "I know what you've been doing, Eric. The rent hike, the job rejections, the diner. It's all you, isn't it?" He didn't deny it. Instead, he stepped aside, inviting me in as though he had anticipated this confrontation. We sat in his elegant living room, and his words were a quiet storm of truth. "Yes," he admitted, "I made things difficult for you, Emma. But it wasn't out of hatred. I wanted you to understand what it feels like to lose everything, the way you made me feel." My throat tightened as he continued, his voice steady, almost detached. "Mark thought he could take what was mine and walk away unscathed. He learned otherwise. His company is mine now. He reports to people who know exactly what he did." I could see it clearly now. Eric wasn't just seeking justice. He was reclaiming control, closing a painful chapter in his life. "I don't hate you, Emma," he said, his expression softening. "I don't even think about you anymore. But I needed closure. And now I have it." Tears welled in my eyes as the weight of my actions crashed over me. I had betrayed someone who once loved me deeply. I had shattered his trust and caused pain I could never undo. Now I was living the consequences of my choices. That night, I returned to my apartment and stared at my reflection in the mirror. The person looking back at me was a stranger, broken yet yearning for change. For the first time in years, I felt a spark of determination. Eric had moved on. Now it was my turn. I began therapy to confront my guilt and rebuild my self-worth. I enrolled in community college, determined to forge a new path. It wasn't easy, healing rarely is, but every small step felt like progress. A year later, I heard that Mark had left the company, a shadow of his former self. Eric, on the other hand, had remarried. He and Rachel seemed genuinely happy, a picture of the life I had once imagined with him. As for me, I was still rebuilding. I had found a stable job, made new friends, and was learning to forgive myself. Eric's revenge had irrevocably changed our lives. Mark's, Eric's, and mine. The weight of my betrayal lingered, but it had taught me an invaluable lesson. Betrayal comes with consequences, and sometimes those consequences shadow you for a lifetime.